welcome to now what is called the Mother Joseph Hall. Prior to this, it was called Providence Hall, and more popularly known as the Sisters Convent when they were resident here. So this was their formal entrance, this was the hallway, and around the corner there's an elevator which was a great addition to them. And then I love this has been redecorated and remodeled, but I love, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. The knowledge, its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. And that's from Proverbs. It's a lovely way of capturing what the building has been and what it will be. And as I say, it was built as the convent, and then when sisters were no longer living here, it went through a number of uses. More recently, it was a part of the response to COVID. It was the isolation area for students. When I started here on campus as mission officer, it was the administration centre, and that was before the building of our new university centre. So come with me and I point out some of the features and maybe indicate some of the history. When it was occupied by the sisters, this was their dining room, their refectory, and then from maybe where the wall is there, the last of the wall, that was the kitchen area back there for the convent. And so this is all being broken open, and so this will be the students' recreation space with a kitchen, an island and new cabinet, and of course the mandatory supersized television. And if you look out here, we have the courtyard, which was the space, the open space between the convent and the chapel, and that's also got a little bit of a facelift. This is our showroom. It is set up for students as they would see it, and hopefully will be here. Melissa Blummel, who works in advancement and is also helped design and helped lay out this room. So let her explain the niceties of the design.
Well, thank you, Father. Just thinking when a student or potential student walks into this room that they see themselves living here. So we tried to make it very cozy and comfortable, and of course promote our Argos in University of Providence because we are so proud.
And of course here we're in the courtyard, which is the space between Mother Joseph Hall and Trinitas Chapel, and where sisters would have come for reflection and prayer in the wonderful Big Sky country. And in fact, if you just look here, there's a pedestal back here on the back wall, and that's where the statue of Saint Joseph that is presently in front of Sullivan Hall, that was there. And this is where, as I said, the sisters would have spent time praying and reflecting and just meditating and keeping the garden. We've restored it in the hope that we can bring it back to use, not just for the students of Mother Joseph Hall, but for other uses too, when we restore the chapel, which is on our to-do list in the next couple of months. Here in this smaller lounge, just off the kitchen and dining area, this was the President's meeting room. So it had a large table and comfortable chairs for our meetings, but I believe prior to that, or earlier, this was the garage built for the sisters when the building itself was being built. And the remnant of that, you can see the brickwork here shows that there was a large door there. So this was the garage, and then this space from here over was at one time a childcare centre. And here we're on the stairwell towards what's sometimes referred to as the back of the building. And here we have this wonderful image of Mother Joseph, who, as we know, was responsible for the sisters coming from Montreal to the northwest, and then coming into Montana, and then eventually to Great Falls in the 1890s. Not that she came, but she sent sisters here. What is also important about this image is the quote that here and on the front stairs, we have sort of taken some of her sayings, and so that the students, as they're running up and down the stairs, rushing to classes or rushing out to play games or some gathering or other, that they are reminded of the word, the thoughts of Mother Joseph. And this one is, of course, whatever concerns the poor is always our affair. In other words, that we should, as a ministry, of the Sisters of Providence and continuing the ministry of Jesus Christ, that we should always be concerned for the poor. And then at the other stairwell, we have also the same image of Mother Joseph of the Sacred Heart, but the quote from her writings is different than on the other stairwell. And here we have, "We recommend to you the care of the poor." Again, remembering that as a ministry in the legacy and in the tradition of the Sisters of Providence, that our interest and our care should be the poor and the underserved. When it comes to this space, I'm rather sentimental, because this was the space that I lived in, or worked in rather, as the VP for Mission. My office was in there, and it's now blocked up, and this was a meeting room. And I believe, I think one of the people with the memory of when it was a convent said that this was part of the sewing area, where the sisters would use for craft work and for sewing. We're in what was, during its time as the administrative building, this was the provost's office, and it connects directly into his executive assistant's office, which was there, and then out to the corridor there, and also out to the corridor here with the door behind. This is a huge space for residents. This space here was the executive assistants to the president's office. Now presently it has just been blocked off to make 2 single rooms. In there was a small meeting room for pop-up meetings, or for smaller groups rather than the large meeting downstairs. When the executive assistant moved out of here, though the president remained, she moved closer to my space at the other end of the corridor. These 2 rooms became the hub for finance. This is where accountants and those taking care of the financial operations of the university had their offices, until we then moved out of the building, which was 5 years ago this next month in 2019. And here we are in the corridor that the sisters would have taken on the way to and from the chapel. And indeed, when they would have been going out on the campus, they would also have more than likely come this way, not maybe through the formal entrance. In more recent times, the space to my right on this corridor would have been the Trinitas Galleria. And however, now we have moved that over to the new building. When we were designing and planning the refurbishment of this building, one of the things that was important to include, because of its proximity to the chapel here behind me, was that there would be a second restroom that would help overflow the congregation coming that would need a restroom. And so we managed to have a new restroom put in here in this space. In previous times, this actually was an office. There was a window here. Students would come here and transact the business. I think it was to pay some bills in that in the very early days back there. And here we are in the emptied chapel, Trinitas Chapel. In late January, there was a heavy snowfall. And this is a flat roof, and it was porous, and it just, when it thawed very suddenly overnight, the entire place flooded, and not just drips, but flooded. Everything was ruined, everything was taken out, and so we're now in the process of raising funds for it, and also having liturgical architects give us some ideas about design. We're hoping that we can retain some of, if not all, of Sister Trinitas's artwork, but also bring it up to date into a worship space that we'd all be delighted and pleased to participate in celebrating the liturgies here. But also, as Trinitas and the sisters would have been very in tune with, I think it's a Chinese saying, which I'm paraphrasing it, we do not come to do what they did, we come to see what they saw and then respond. And so that's what we're going to try and capture here, that movement of being faithful to the legacy of Sister Trinitas and her design for this space, and then how do we make that adaptable for contemporary liturgies. Hope that helps, and thank you for your time in listening and watching, and thank you, sisters, for your legacy and for your dedication to the educational and healthcare ministries.